The Empire had mapped every star system within 3,000 light-years. They had every known world, every confirmed species, every potential threat to their supremacy. Commander served the Empire for 60 years, and in that time he had never found anything surprising. Today, that changed. The survey ship descended toward Earth in standard protocol formation, stood on the observation deck and looked at the planet below. Blue oceans covered most of the surface. Green continents spread across the middle latitudes. Clouds swirled in predictable atmospheric patterns. Everything about the planet looked ordinary. The preliminary scans confirmed his initial assessment. The species called humans had technology equivalent to a Level 3 civilization. They had achieved less than 100 years ago. They had nuclear weapons but used them sparingly. They built cities. They grew food. They had governments and trade systems. By every measure, they were a young species that would take thousands of years to reach true galactic power. Ordered the survey team to land and establish a research facility. The team set up sensors and began detailed biological analysis. That was when the first anomalies appeared. Doctor, the junior, entered the command center with a concerned expression. She carried a data tablet filled with biological readings. She set the tablet on the main display and looked at directly. "Commander, we have a problem," she said. Turned away from the window. "Report." "The apex predators on this world," said, "they are humans." Felt confusion. Explain this statement. Activated the display. Images of various Earth creatures appeared on the screen. Large predators, small predators, creatures with teeth and claws and speed. Then a human appeared, a bipedal creature, no claws, no visible fangs, no thick fur, no natural armor. "The biological data shows that humans are apex predators on this planet," continued. "They have been apex predators for hundreds of thousands of years. They did not become intelligent and then rule the world. They ruled the world first because they were apex predators." Studied the images. This seems unlikely. Their physiology appears weak. "That is what makes this interesting," said. She advanced to the next set of data. "Humans have binocular forward-facing eyes evolved for hunting prey. They have hands with opposable thumbs for tool use. They have exceptional endurance. They can hunt animals larger than themselves through persistence. They chase prey until the prey collapses from exhaustion. Most species cannot do this." Leaned forward. "How is this possible?" "Running," said simply. "Humans are built for long-distance running. They sweat to cool their bodies. They can run for hours without stopping. They have the second-best endurance of any large predator we know. Only the hunting birds have better endurance, and those are flyers." The data continued. Humans had exceptional hand-eye coordination. Their vision was sharp. Their brains were large relative to their body size. Their social structures were complex, allowing groups to coordinate hunts across great distances. But there was more. "The humans have a unique psychological trait," said. "They engage in play combat from childhood. By the time a human reaches adulthood, they have years of combat experience through games and training. Most sapient species do not develop combat skills until they are necessary." Sat down. This was not what he had expected to find. "What do the local humans do with these abilities?" "They built cities," said. "They created civilization. They developed technology. But beneath everything, they remain apex predators. Look at their cultural products, their stories, their art. Many of their tales glorify hunting, combat, and dominance." A communication came through the main speaker. One of the field teams was requesting presence. They had located a human settlement and wanted to establish peaceful contact. Authorized the meeting and told to compile complete biological and behavioral data. He would need all information before meeting with these creatures. The transport took across the landscape. He saw forests and valleys, rivers and mountains. The planet was beautiful. It was also covered with life. Herbivores grazed in open fields, predators hunted in the forests. But humans had built their cities among all of this. They had not retreated to safe places. They lived everywhere in every environment alongside every danger. The human settlement was called New York. It was massive. Millions of humans lived in this one city. Buildings stretched toward the sky like vertical mountains. Vehicles moved on roads carrying humans from place to place. The city was crowded and complex and alive with movement. A group of humans approached the landing site. They wore formal clothes and carried themselves with confidence. At the front was a tall woman with short, dark hair and a uniform that indicated military rank. Her name was Captain Lisa Monroe. Beside her was a man named Colonel Hart, also in military uniform. Others followed, scientists and diplomats and government officials. Captain Monroe looked directly at. "Welcome to Earth, Commander. I am Captain Lisa Monroe of the United States Navy. We are pleased to make formal contact with your people." Observed her carefully. She showed no fear. Her posture was confident. Her eyes were sharp and aware, just like the biology data suggested. She was dangerous. He was certain of this now. "I am commander of the Empire," he replied. "We come to study your world and your species. We mean no harm." "And we mean no harm to you," Monroe said. She gestured toward a building nearby. "We have prepared a place for you to discuss our two civilizations. We hope that today marks the beginning of a long relationship between our peoples." Followed the humans into the building. As they walked, he studied them. Their movements were controlled. Their reflexes appeared quick. They were watching him with the same intensity he was watching them. Colonel Hart walked slightly behind and to the side in a position that would allow him to respond quickly to any threat. These were not young diplomats. These were apex predators trained in the art of cooperation. The meeting room was prepared with chairs and tables and food and water. Captain Monroe invited to sit and talk. The conversation began with simple questions about their respective empires, but found himself studying every answer. When he asked about their history, Monroe described wars and conflicts and weapons of incredible destructive power. When he asked about their science, Hart explained rapid advancement and technological achievement. When he asked about their government, the weeks that followed were intense, and his team conducted interviews across multiple human nations. They visited military bases and research facilities. They studied human history in detail. Every piece of information confirmed Doctor's initial assessment and added disturbing new layers to the analysis. Captain Lisa Monroe served as the primary human liaison. She was patient with questions, no matter how direct they became. She showed him military training facilities where humans practiced combat techniques. She explained how humans could operate complex weapons systems with minimal instruction. She described the human military structure, which maintained standing armies of millions across their planet. During one visit to a naval base, Monroe guided through the weapons storage area. Rows of firearms lined the walls, thousands of them. Each firearm was a killing tool designed by humans, improved by humans, tested by humans. "Every adult human can be trained to use these weapons within days," Monroe explained. "Many humans own weapons for hunting and personal defense. Our civilian population is heavily armed." Stared at the displays. "Your entire population is militarized." "No," Monroe said, "but most of us could be. That is different." Colonel Hart joined them later that week. He gave a detailed presentation on human military history. Hart showed images of wars that had destroyed entire regions, weapons that had killed millions, weapons that humans had created to kill other humans more efficiently. "Why did you create such weapons if you understood their destructive power?" asked. Hart was direct. "Because other humans might use them against us. We created weapons because we knew we might have to fight. We fought because we wanted resources or territory or because we feared others would take what was ours." "And yet you survived your own weapons," said. "Your species was not destroyed." "We came close," Hart replied. "Multiple times, but yes, we survived, we learned. We developed stronger ethics and stronger agreements. We do not want to use weapons anymore, but we remember how. That capability is still inside us." Doctor expanded her analysis by studying human biological markers. She conducted genetic tests and examined human development patterns. The results were clear. Humans had the genetic code for apex predators written in their DNA, eyes positioned for hunting, hands designed for tool use and weapon creation, brains large enough for complex strategy and planning, hearts and lungs and muscles built for sustained effort and long-distance pursuit. But more than physical traits, humans had psychological characteristics that marked them as dangerous. Reviewed psychological reports showing human capacity for violence and human capacity for tolerance of violence. Humans could endure pain that would disable other species. Humans could engage in combat even when they knew they might die. Humans would sacrifice themselves for others in their group. This was not just biology. This was cultural evolution built on the foundation of apex predator survival. In the human libraries, studied human literature and mythology. Stories about hunters and warriors filled thousands of volumes. Humans told each other myths about conquest and adventure. They created art celebrating human triumph over obstacles. Even in their modern entertainment, humans constantly depicted themselves as warriors overcoming enemies. "Why do you tell these stories?" asked Captain Monroe during one of their conversations. Monroe thought carefully about the answer. "Because our ancestors were hunters. That heritage is part of who we are. We tell stories about it because it matters. But we also tell stories about cooperation and compassion and building together. We are not only apex predators, we are also capable of great love and loyalty." "But the apex predator nature remains," said. "Yes," Monroe admitted. "It remains. We have learned to control it most of the time, but it is there, that is honest." Requested access to human children. He wanted to understand human development from youth. What he found disturbed him further. Human children engaged in play combat from their earliest years. They made weapons from toys. They played hunting games. They competed with each other. This was normal human development. This was how humans prepared for adulthood. Colonel Hart provided information about military training programs. He explained that humans could be trained to fight effectively within weeks. The training was difficult, but humans had the physical and mental capacity to learn quickly. Most importantly, Hart explained, humans could maintain combat effectiveness over long periods. Humans did not need to sleep constantly like many species. Humans could function for extended periods without food or water, though not indefinitely. "How many humans could be mobilized for military action if your world were threatened?" asked Hart directly. Hart considered the question carefully. "Approximately 2 billion humans could be trained and equipped as effective military personnel within 6 months, perhaps 2.5 billion. That is out of a total population of 8 billion. Felt the weight of this number. The Empire had a total military force of 3 million across all their territories. Earth could produce apex predators in quantities that would match military might within a brief time period. "What prevents you from using this capacity?" asked. Hart was honest. "Civilization, government, international laws, cultural values, economics. Most of all, I think, humans have learned that killing is expensive and painful. We have wars, but we do not want them. However, if Earth were attacked, if our people were threatened with extinction, then yes, we would mobilize fully. We would become exactly what our bodies are designed to be." Captain Monroe added her perspective. "We are not monsters, Commander. We are not violent by nature in the way you might think. We have built systems that make peace profitable and war costly. We have families and homes and dreams that do not involve killing. But we remember what we are. We know what we are capable of. And we hope that knowing this about us makes other species more likely to treat us with respect rather than contempt." Completed his interviews and observations. He had seen enough. He returned to the orbital station and began compiling his full report for the Empire leadership. The data was undeniable. Earth harbored a population of 8 billion sapient beings. Nearly all of them were physical and intellectual apex predators. They had weapons. They had discipline. They had the capacity to work together on massive scales. They had a history of defeating every challenge their world could present. And they had an unusual characteristic that made them even more dangerous. They had developed conscience. They had created ethics. They had learned to question violence even when they were winning. Knew that this combination made humanity potentially the most dangerous species the Empire had ever encountered. He also knew that humanity was not currently hostile. They wanted peace. They wanted integration into the galactic community. But understood something fundamental about apex predators. They could be peaceful when conditions were favorable. But if threatened, if dishonored, if pushed too far, they would remember exactly what they were. Commander's report was 140 pages long. Every page was filled with data, analysis, and conclusions that disturbed the Empire's leadership. The Empire had been structured on the assumption that they were the dominant force in the galaxy. Its report suggested that assumption might be wrong. Doctor compiled the biological data into a comprehensive analysis. The report showed that humans were physically superior to most known species in several key areas. Humans had faster reaction times than the Humans had better endurance than the traders. Humans had problem-solving abilities that matched or exceeded most sapient species in the galaxy. But physical capabilities were only part of the analysis. The psychological profile was equally detailed. Humans had high pain tolerance. Humans could maintain focus during extreme stress. Humans showed willingness to engage in conflict even when the outcome was uncertain. Humans would die for causes they believed in. Humans would sacrifice individual desires for group survival. Most importantly, humans had something called adaptability. If humans encountered a new environment, they did not freeze or panic. They analyzed the problem and created solutions. If humans faced an enemy with superior technology, they did not surrender. They found ways to use the technology against the enemy or created new approaches to overcome the disadvantage. The historical analysis revealed humanity's capacity to survive extinction-level threats. Humans had experienced meteor impacts that killed most species on their planet. Humans had survived ice ages that lasted for thousands of years. Humans had created civilization despite living on a planet filled with dangerous animals and harsh weather. Every time existence threatened them, humans adapted and survived. When reviewed human military history in detail, he found something troubling. Humans had fought wars where they used chemical weapons against each other. Humans had developed nuclear weapons and demonstrated willingness to use them. Humans had created biological weapons designed to kill other humans selectively. Yet despite having these weapons and using them, humans had not destroyed themselves. This told something important. If humans ever decided to use their full technological and military capacity against another species, the other species would have very little defense. Colonel Hart provided additional information about human military training methods. Hart explained that humans learned faster from failure than from success. If a military approach failed, humans studied the failure and developed a better approach. Humans did not repeat the same mistakes. They constantly improved their methods. This is called military doctrine, Hart explained too. We study wars, we learn from them, we develop better strategies based on what worked and what failed. Most species do not do this. Most species fight the same way their ancestors fought. Humans are constantly evolving our combat techniques. Asked about human weapons development, Hart took him to research facilities where humans studied new weapons technologies. Scientists designed weapons that were more efficient, more effective, and more deadly than previous weapons. This was ongoing. It never stopped. Humans were constantly improving their capacity to kill. Why do you continue developing weapons if you wish for peace? Asked. Because peace requires strength, Hart replied. If we are weak, others might attack us. If we are strong, others respect us and avoid conflict. This is true of all species. The analysis examined human behavior patterns more carefully. The researchers discovered that humans had a complex relationship with violence. Humans did not enjoy killing for its own sake. Most humans showed distress after killing, even in legitimate self-defense. But humans had the capacity to override this distress when they believed it was necessary. In other words, humans could compartmentalize. They could engage in activities that they disliked when they believed it served a greater purpose. This mental flexibility made them dangerous because it meant they would not be paralyzed by emotions during conflict. Additionally, humans had strong social bonding. Humans would follow leaders they trusted, even into situations where death was likely. Humans would fight harder to protect their families and their communities than for any abstract concept. This meant that human military units could achieve high levels of commitment and sacrifice. The cultural analysis showed that humans had created stories celebrating human achievement and human conquest. These stories were told to children from their earliest years. Humans believed themselves to be exceptional. This belief, accurate or not, gave them confidence that they could overcome any obstacle. Doctor presented her final conclusions, too. She had compiled all the biological data into a threat assessment document. Humans are the most complete apex predator we have, said. They have every biological advantage. They have every psychological advantage. They have high intelligence and strong social organization. They have developed technology rapidly. Most importantly, they have demonstrated they can learn and adapt. If humans were ever isolated from galactic contact and forced to develop weapons independently, they would likely reach parity with the Empire within 200 to 300 years. With access to captured or obtained alien technology, they could reach parity within 50 years. Looked at the data, and if humans were motivated to expand beyond their world, then nothing would stop them, said flatly. They would colonize every available world. They would absorb or destroy every species that stood in their way. They would become the dominant power in the galaxy within 500 years. But then added something unexpected to her report. However, she wrote, humans appear to have developed strong ethical frameworks despite their predatory nature. Humans show genuine capacity for compassion. Humans create art and music and literature celebrating cooperation and peace. Humans show willingness to help other species without direct benefit to themselves. It appears that humans are capable of choosing peace even when they are strong enough to choose war. This was the complication that made humans truly unique. They were apex predators with conscience. They were dangerous creatures with morality. Colonel Hart requested a final meeting before the commander's official report to the Empire leadership. Hart wanted to speak directly about human intentions. Commander, Hart said, we know you have been studying us intensely. We know you are concerned about human capabilities. This is reasonable. We would be concerned if our positions were reversed. But I want you to understand something. Humans do not want to conquer the galaxy. We want to survive. We want to thrive. We want to share knowledge with other species. We want peace. But you are capable of conquest, said. Yes, Hart agreed. We are capable, but capability and desire are different things. Humans have the capacity for terrible violence, but we do not want it. We have learned from our own history that war is painful and expensive. We have learned that cooperation is better than conquest. Considered this carefully. What would change this situation? What would make humanity choose war? The Empire's Leadership Council met in secret chambers deep within their capital world. 12 members of the Council studied its report with growing concern. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 5,000 years. They were accustomed to being the most powerful force in known space. Analysis suggested they might no longer be. The debate was intense and emotional. Council member advocated for immediate military containment. He wanted to establish a blockade around Earth, preventing humans from developing space travel further. He wanted to confiscate all alien technology that had been shared with humans. He wanted to isolate Earth completely until they could determine if humans posed a genuine threat. The report makes it clear, argued. Humans are apex predators with superior combat capabilities. They have developed weapons of mass destruction. They have the mental capacity to imagine and execute genocide. We cannot allow such a species to gain access to galactic technology. Council member disagreed. She argued for rapid integration and control. She believed that if humans were brought into the galactic community quickly, they could be guided toward peaceful development. She suggested that human intelligence and adaptability made them valuable assets to the Empire. If they could establish trade, relationships, and cultural dominance early, they could shape human society according to interests. Humans will become spacefaring regardless of what we do, argued. If we try to contain them, they will resent us and potentially become hostile. If we welcome them and offer them advantages in joining our community, they will naturally align with our interests. Council member Vex took a middle position. Vex believed that humans should be contacted but approached with extreme caution. Vex wanted to establish diplomatic relationships while maintaining strong military preparation. If humans proved to be peaceful, they could gradually integrate them into the galactic community. If humans proved to be aggressive, they would be ready for conflict. The debate continued for 3 solar cycles. Arguments were presented and counter-arguments were offered. The council could not reach agreement. Finally, Commander was called before the council to present his findings and recommendations directly. Entered the chamber and stood before the 12 members. He carried no weapons. He showed respect but not fear. He was a servant of the Empire, but he had earned the right to speak truth to power. Council members began, I have spent months studying humanity. I have examined their biology, their history, their psychology, and their culture. I understand your concerns. Humans are indeed apex predators with significant capabilities, but I must tell you what my analysis has also revealed. Displayed images showing human scientific achievements. He showed medical advances that humans had made. He showed human art and literature. He showed human communities working together to solve problems. Humans are capable of creating beauty as well as destruction, said. Humans are capable of compassion as well as violence. Most importantly, humans are aware of their own nature. They understand they are capable of terrible things. This awareness has led them to create ethical systems to restrain their own behavior. This is simply propaganda, interjected. Their ethics are convenient limitations that serve their current interests. Possibly, agreed. But consider this. Humans have possessed nuclear weapons for 80 years. They have used these weapons only twice. Both times they immediately regretted the decision. Since then, despite numerous conflicts and wars, humans have not used nuclear weapons again. This suggests that their ethical development is genuine, not merely strategic. Continued his presentation. He described human military capabilities in detail, but he also described human hesitation to use those capabilities. He explained that humans would rather find peaceful solutions to problems than resort to violence. Humans are warriors, said, but they have learned to prefer peace. The council members listened carefully. Some remained unconvinced. Others were beginning to reconsider their positions. Then presented his recommendation. I recommend that we welcome humanity to the galactic community, said. Not from weakness, but from strength. We should establish trade relationships. We should share technology selectively. We should invite humans to participate in galactic governance. We should treat them as equals and partners rather than as subordinates or threats. Why would we do this? Vex asked. Because humans are going to develop space travel capabilities regardless of our actions, replied. If we try to prevent this through military blockade, we will create resentment and potentially create enemies. If we welcome them as partners, we create allies. Humans value loyalty and honor. If we treat them with respect, they will reciprocate with respect. If we treat them with dishonor, they will remember it, and eventually they will respond. And if they become too powerful, asked, if they rival our own military strength, then we will have allies who rival our military strength, said, which is preferable to having enemies who rival our military strength. The difference is mutual interest in peace rather than mutual interest in conflict. The council debated further, but perspective was gaining influence. The empire had survived for 5,000 years by being adaptable and strategic, was suggesting a strategy based on mutual benefit rather than domination. In the end, the council reached a decision. They would welcome humanity to the galactic community. They would establish diplomatic relations. They would offer trade and technology exchanges. They would monitor human development carefully, but they would treat humans as partners rather than as subjects or threats. Was authorized to return to Earth and present this decision to the human leadership. Captain Lisa Monroe and Colonel Hart received in a formal government building. Both humans appeared hopeful but also cautious. They understood that aliens had been studying their world with great intensity. Presented the Empire's decision directly. The Empire welcomes humanity to the galactic community. We wish to establish peaceful trade relationships. We wish to share knowledge and culture. We believe that humanity has much to contribute to galactic civilization. Monroe's face showed genuine relief. This is welcome news, Commander. Humanity wishes the same. We want peace and cooperation. But then Hart asked a careful question. Commander, I must ask, what caused your empire to make this decision? What were they concerned about? Was honest. They were concerned about your capabilities. They were concerned that you might become a threat. But I convinced them that your moral development and your capacity for ethics make you different from simple predators. I told them that you could be trusted, even though you were strong. Hart nodded slowly. Then I hope your confidence in us is justified, Commander, and I hope your empire understands something. We are grateful for their welcome. We want peace with thee and with all galactic species. But if we are ever betrayed, if we are ever treated with dishonor, we will not simply accept it. We will respond. Not because we are monsters, but because we are human. Understood exactly what Hart was saying. The message was clear. Treat humanity with respect and you will have the most valuable ally in the galaxy. Disrespect humanity and you will have discovered the true extent of what apex predators could accomplish. 5 years after first contact, Earth had been transformed. Spaceports now covered multiple continents. Human ships traveled between worlds. Humans studied alien technology and developed new combinations of human innovation and alien engineering. The transition was rapid and organized and successful. Commander remained on Earth as permanent diplomatic representative of the Empire. He had been granted special status, permitted to live continuously on a human world rather than rotating back to the Empire every few years. This was unprecedented. Normally, representatives were rotated regularly to prevent excessive attachment to alien cultures. But had become essential to human relations. Humans trusted him. They remembered that he had advocated for their acceptance when others in the Empire wanted to destroy them. They showed him respect and included him in major decisions affecting the entire species. One morning stood in the observation deck of the new orbital station Earth Station Prime. The station had been constructed by joint and human engineering teams. It orbited Earth at a fixed point, serving as a hub for trade and diplomatic activity. From his position could see 3 ships in dock. One was a vessel, one was a human vessel, one was a trading ship. Humans were now conducting business with multiple species simultaneously. Doctor approached from behind. She had also remained on Earth, studying human development as the species integrated into galactic civilization, had become fascinated by humanity in a way that went beyond scientific analysis. She respected them. "Commander, I have been analyzing human advancement over the past 5 years," said. She displayed data on a nearby screen. "Humans have integrated alien technology faster than any species in recorded galactic history. They have combined human methods with engineering and created new approaches we did not imagine." Studied the data. It was true. Humans had taken technology that they had refined over thousands of years and improved it within a few years. They had combined human biological knowledge with alien medical technology and developed treatments for diseases that had plagued both species. They had taken human architectural principles and merged them with structural designs to create buildings stronger and more efficient than either species could have built alone. "This does not surprise me," said. "Humans are innovative by nature. They solve problems rapidly. They adapt to new circumstances quickly." "But there is something else," continued. She advanced to additional data. "Humans are also showing remarkable capacity for cooperation with alien species. They are not trying to dominate trade negotiations. They are not attempting to gain unfair advantage in diplomatic agreements. They are genuinely interested in mutually beneficial arrangements." Understood what was observing. Humans had proven to be excellent partners not because they were weak, but because they were secure. They did not need to dominate others because they were confident enough to benefit from cooperation. This was a rare trait among apex predator species. Captain Lisa Monroe visited the orbital station for a formal meeting. She had been promoted to admiral and now directed human space operations for the combined Earth governments. She looked different from when first met her 5 years ago. She looked more confident. The responsibilities of coordinating human expansion into space had aged her but also strengthened her. "Commander," Monroe said warmly, "I wanted to meet with you personally. I have been reading reports that the Empire is considering expanded integration with human civilization. Is this correct?" "It is," confirmed. "The Council has determined that humanity would be valuable as military partners. They want to discuss joint defense agreements." Monroe's expression became serious. "This is significant. I want you to understand something, Commander. Humans understand that military relationships can be dangerous. We have seen partnerships break down into conflicts in our own history. We will cooperate militarily, but we need guarantees." "What guarantees?" asked. "We want guarantees of equal treatment. We want guarantees of autonomy in human territory. We want guarantees that human lives will be valued equally with lives in joint operations. And most importantly, Commander, we want guarantees that if we ever trust the Empire with our security, that trust will not be violated." Understood the seriousness of this request. Monroe was asking for security agreements that would be considered unusual by galactic standards. The Empire did not normally grant such favorable terms to developing species. "I will convey your requirements to the Council," said, "but I believe they will be agreeable. The Council understands what you understand, Admiral. Humans are dangerous partners, but humans make excellent allies." Monroe smiled slightly. "That is one way to describe us, Commander. I prefer to think of it differently. We are trustworthy partners who are also strong enough that betraying us would be unwise." Over the following months, treaties were negotiated and agreements were finalized. Humans and would conduct joint military operations. They would share intelligence. They would defend each other's territories if attacked. But humans would maintain complete autonomy over their own worlds and their own government. It was an unprecedented arrangement in history, but the Council recognized that it was the only arrangement that would work with humans. Humans would not accept subordinate status, and they could not afford to have humans as enemies. Watched as human military officers trained alongside officers. He observed human technology engineers working with engineers on joint projects. He attended cultural events where human musicians performed for alien audiences and alien artists performed for human audiences. Slowly, the distinction between and human began to fade in the context of their shared work. They were becoming partners in a way that most galactic species never became. One evening, received a personal invitation from Captain Monroe. She wanted to meet with him privately, not in any official capacity. Accepted and met her in a small restaurant overlooking the city of New York. Monroe looked more relaxed than had ever seen her. She ordered human food and offered something that he could safely consume. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "Commander," Monroe began, "I want to tell you something. When you first arrived on Earth, we were nervous. We did not know what you wanted. We did not know if you came as friend or enemy. We prepared for conflict, but we hoped for peace." "I remember," said, "you were cautious but welcoming." "That is because we are human," Monroe said. "We understand fear. We have lived with fear for our entire history as a species. But we have learned that fear can either destroy us or motivate us to become stronger. When you came, we were afraid, but we did not let fear paralyze us. We met you with strength, but also with openness." Monroe paused, gathering her thoughts. "I want to apologize to you for something," she continued. "When Colonel Hart warned you about what humans could become if threatened, that was a threat. I know it was. We were trying to establish deterrence to make sure you and your empire understood that harming humanity would have consequences. This was necessary for our survival, but it was also a warning, and I want to acknowledge that." Considered his response carefully. "Admiral, I understood what Colonel Hart was saying. I also understood why he was saying it. Humans are apex predators. Apex predators do not survive by appearing weak. Your warning was appropriate and necessary. I did not take offense. I took it as confirmation that humans understood their own nature and were willing to be honest about their capabilities." "That is good to hear," Monroe said, "because I also want you to understand this. The warning is not an empty threat. If the Empire ever betrayed humanity, if you ever attacked us or tried to enslave us or treated us with systematic dishonor, we would respond with everything we are capable of. We would use every tool, every strategy, every advantage that we possess. We would not accept domination." "But that will not happen," Monroe added, "because we believe that the Empire respects us. We believe that your council understood what you understood. We are valuable as allies. We are dangerous as enemies. Therefore, we will be allies." Felt something close to affection for this human. Monroe was not being aggressive or disrespectful. She was simply stating reality. She was being honest about what humans were and what humans would do. "Admiral Monroe," said formally, "I believe the galaxy is fortunate that humans are willing to be partners rather than conquerors. I believe that cooperation between our species will improve galactic civilization for everyone. And I believe that you will always find me to be an honest representative of interests and a trustworthy advocate for human interests." "That is all we can ask for," Monroe replied. "That is what partnership means." In the months that followed, continued his work as diplomatic representative. He watched as humans and built space stations together. He observed human scientists collaborating with alien researchers on problems that affected both species. He attended celebrations of human cultural achievements and human festivals. He participated in joint military exercises and strategic planning sessions. And in his regular reports to the Empire, continued to emphasize the same message. Earth harbored apex predators. Humans were intelligent, capable, dangerous, and moral. Treating them with respect and honor would yield allies of incredible value. Treating them with dishonor would yield enemies that the galaxy would regret creating. The future of galactic civilization had changed. Humanity was no longer a developing species to be observed and managed. Humanity had become a force that would shape the destiny of the galaxy. The Empire had made the right decision. They had chosen partnership over domination. They had chosen to welcome humans as equals rather than controlling them as subjects. And in return, they had gained allies who were as strong as they were honorable. In the end, this was the greatest discovery that had made. Not that humans were apex predators, but that humans were apex predators who had learned to choose peace, and that choice made them more valuable to the galaxy than any amount of domination could have achieved. The decision was made. Humanity would join the galactic community, but everyone involved understood that this welcome came with an implicit understanding. Humans were not to be threatened. They were not to be enslaved. They were not to be dishonored. Because if they were, the galaxy would learn exactly why apex predators had evolved such fearsome capabilities. Hart was quiet for a long moment. If we were threatened with extinction, if other species attacked us or tried to enslave us, if we were treated with such dishonor that we had no choice but to defend ourselves, then and only then would we become what our bodies and our capabilities suggest we could be. Transmitted his final report to the Empire leadership. The report recommended extreme caution in all dealings with humanity. The report suggested that humanity should be treated as equals, with respect and honor. The report warned that if humanity were ever pushed into a corner, if humanity were ever threatened, the galaxy would discover what a truly motivated apex predator species could accomplish. The Empire would need to decide how to respond to the discovery of Earth. They could try to contain humanity. They could try to control humanity, or they could welcome humanity as partners. Believed only the third option would be safe. The Empire needed to understand this before they made any decisions about humanity's place in the galaxy. Officials discussed systems of control and organization that maintained peace among millions of competitive individuals. By the end of the meeting, had reached one clear conclusion. The Empire had discovered something unprecedented, not a civilization they could easily integrate, not a species they could easily control, but a world full of apex predators who had learned to channel their dangerous nature into civilization. He needed to know more, much more. "I would like to extend our stay on Earth," said to Captain Monroe. "My team requires extensive research before we make a full report to the Empire." Monroe smiled. "You are welcome to stay as long as you need, Commander. We look forward to showing you everything that makes humanity valuable to the galaxy." Nodded, but he was thinking something else. He was thinking that humanity was valuable to the galaxy only if the galaxy never gave them a reason to remember what they truly were.